All right, today we're going to tear up the standard leadership playbook. We're diving into this really powerful idea called regenerative leadership. And look, this isn't about those quick fixes or the latest business fad. Nope, this is about fostering something much deeper, something truly sustainable.
But first, let's start with a question, and I'm willing to bet this is going to sound very familiar to you. Picture this. You've just come from the big leadership offsite, or maybe it was a motivational workshop. The energy in the room? Absolutely electric. Everyone's fired up. But then, what happens a month later? Poof, it's all gone. That initial spark has completely fizzled out. So why? Why does this keep happening over and over again?
Well, there's actually a name for this whole phenomenon, and it's brilliant. Mick leadership. Yeah, you heard that right. Just think of it like leadership fast food. You know, it's quick, it's easy to scale up, and it gives you that satisfying fix for a moment. But it's not actually nourishing, is it? It doesn't build the real deep-down capabilities that leaders desperately need to handle the complex world we're all living in.
And this is what creates this incredibly frustrating cycle called the Mick loop. You get this jolt of energy from a training session, right? Everyone's excited. And then, what happens? Inevitably, the team just slides right back into those same old ineffective patterns. So, what's the solution? Well, usually it's, let's schedule another training. And boom, the loop starts all over again.
So, the big question is, how do we break out of this trap? Well, the first step is to see the invisible assumptions, the myths that are actually powering the whole thing. So, let's pull back the curtain and uncover the 5 core myths of conventional leadership that keep so many organizations stuck.
All right, here they are in a nutshell. First, the idea that just giving people information will magically transform them. Second, that if you just change behaviors, the outcomes will follow. Third, that constantly putting out fires is the same as making progress. Fourth, that some standardized one-size-fits-all model is the ticket to excellence. And finally, the big one, confusing a one-off training session with actual deep development. Okay, let's break each one of these down.
Okay, myth number 1. Information equals transformation. You know the drill. We send our teams to a workshop, we hand them a shiny binder full of frameworks and models, and we kind of just expect their deep-seated habits to magically change. But come on, we all know this isn't true. Knowing how to do something in a classroom and actually doing it when the pressure is on, well, those are two completely different worlds.
All right, next up is this myth that if you just change the behavior, you'll change the outcome. This is where we get obsessed with scripts, right? Say this, don't say that, follow these 3 steps, but we never dig into the mindset behind the action. It's exactly like trimming the leaves of a sick tree while completely ignoring the roots. If you want real lasting change, you have to go deeper. It has to come from a shift in how people think, not just from them memorizing a script.
Now, this next one, it's a little tricky because it takes something we all think is a good thing, problem solving, and shows us the shadow side. Of course, leaders need to solve problems, but a culture that's just built on constant firefighting, that is not the same as progress. When all we're doing is reacting to the latest crisis, we end up creating a dependency on a few heroes to save the day, instead of building the capacity for the entire team, the entire system, to solve problems for itself.
Oh, and this one, the powerful lure of the best practice model. Myth number 4, standardization equals excellence. Look, this makes perfect sense if you're building a car on an assembly line. But our organizations, our teams, our markets, these aren't machines. They are complex, messy, living systems. And trying to apply a cookie-cutter solution to a unique, dynamic organism like that, well, it's just never going to work.
And that brings us to the final myth. And this one really ties all the others together. It's the mistake of confusing training with development. See, a workshop, an online course, that's a training event. It's a moment in time. But real development, that's a continuous process. It's about genuinely growing a person's inner capabilities, their awareness, their consciousness. And that is something you just can't cram into a 2-day workshop. Okay, so if those are the myths that are holding us back, what's the alternative? This is the moment where we make a huge pivot. We're shifting to what's called a regenerative approach. And I really want to stress this. This is not just another new model to learn. It's a fundamentally different way of seeing everything.
Just take a second and sit with this question. What's trying to emerge through the system, and how do I help it come alive? This question is the absolute heart of the regenerative shift. We stop asking, okay, what's broken and how do I fix it? And instead, we start asking, what is the incredible potential here? What is trying to be born? And what is my role in helping it come to life? It's a huge shift from being the hero fixer to being a facilitator of potential.
And this right here really nails the core difference in worldview. The old conventional way, it sees an organization as a machine. If something's wrong, you diagnose the problem, you find the broken part, and you replace it. Simple. But the living systems view, it sees the organization as something more like a garden. You don't fix a garden, do you? No. You create the right conditions for life to thrive. You tend the soil, you make sure there's enough water and sunlight. You work with its natural tendency to grow.
Okay, so this all sounds great in theory, but what does it actually look like in practice? How do you do this? Well, it's not some simple checklist you can just tick off. Instead, it's a framework of 5 core capacities that are all interconnected, things a leader develops over a lifetime. Let's walk through them.
So it all starts with really understanding how living systems work, the principles of life itself. From there, the focus has to turn inward, to your own development. This is so critical. You can't take anyone further than you've gone yourself. Then, you use framework thinking to help you see the patterns and complexity. That enables you to become a true facilitator of development in other people, and ultimately, your work becomes about awakening the regenerative potential in the whole system you're a part of. And remember, these aren't separate steps in a ladder. They all feed and reinforce each other.
And when leaders really, truly commit to building these capacities in themselves, well, what becomes possible for their organizations just changes dramatically. We're not talking about a little tweak here or a minor improvement there. We are talking about a total transformation of what the organization is capable of.
So what's the result? You get organizations that are genuinely adaptive, that can evolve with the world, not just react to it. You get teams that don't shut down in the face of complexity, but actually know how to work with it. And maybe best of all, you get leaders who are freed from this impossible burden of having to have all the answers. Instead, their skill becomes creating the conditions where the best answers can emerge from the team. This is exactly the kind of leadership we need for the huge challenges we face today.
So let's be really clear here. This is not about learning another methodology to stick on a PowerPoint slide. This is about fundamentally upgrading your own internal operating system as a leader. It's about a deep, profound shift in how you see the world and your place in it, all in service of helping life in your organization, in your community, in the world to truly, deeply thrive.
And that brings us to the final and most important question. The need for this kind of leadership is obvious. The potential it can unlock is absolutely enormous, but it doesn't happen on its own. It has to start with an individual choice. It has to start with you. So the only real question left is, are you ready to develop this capacity in yourself?